On behalf of everyone at Central Florida Animal Reserve, I'd like to welcome you to our Osceola campus. My name is Dr. Wiltz. I serve as Senior Vice President and CEO for Central Florida Animal Reserve, and I'm pleased to have the opportunity to introduce our organization. We are on a mission to create a platform that will address the challenges of big cats in the future while providing value to society today. Our core values are compassion, commitment, and conservation, and they guide our interactions with the world and with each other. We measure success not through headlines and quick links, but through the long-term care of our animal residents. And though many people may not have heard about us, we have been in existence since 1996, quietly stewarding our resident lions, tigers, leopards, and cougars for over 20 years. We offer another option, a big cat model for the long term, focused on the needs of our resident cats, free from performance and industry, and surrounded by people who willingly give their time and energy, supported by those who graciously provide financial gifts. Central Florida Animal Reserve needs you. Just as we form the residential safety net for our big cats, you are the financial safety net for our organization. Giving is about legacy. It's a message left to the future generations on what we find valuable today. In an increasingly digital world, divorced from the constructs of reality, big cats are a powerful natural symbol of our connection to this world. Their success is ultimately our success. So we invite you to join us in our mission to provide for the long-term care of our residents and enable us to share their joy with you and future generations. Make that connection today. Donate to Central Florida Animal Reserve securely online and visit our website at cflar.org. We are CFAR, Central Florida Animal Reserve, a platform to address the challenges of big cats for the future and provide value to society today.
So everybody, again, if you're listening to us for the first time, whether it's the radio or the podcasting, we really appreciate it. For the podcasting listeners, please subscribe, like, and share. For our radio listeners, obviously you can't do that, but we do appreciate you listening. And do tell the radio stations that you're listening on us, that you enjoy our program, so they keep putting interviews like this up. So we greatly appreciate both podcast listeners and radio listeners for listening to our program. Dr. Simba Wiltz on here. He is the CEO of Central Florida Animal Reserve. It's a hidden gem attraction in the Central Florida Osceola County area. We're really looking forward to this conversation. A lot of people have been. So, Doc, thanks so much for coming on to speak with us today.
Great. Thanks for having us.
So let's talk about this, just getting to know you and, having the listeners know a little bit about you as we start the program here. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about if you always had this love for big cats, or if not, how did it come about?
Well, my story really starts way back in 1994, and I had heard the stories about a canine distemper outbreak that had taken place in Kenya that was killing a bunch of lions. And as a young scientist, I was very interested in trying to figure out why lions were getting canine distemper. And so what that led me into was one of my professional careers. I am also a practicing pharmacist. But then adding in this element of big cats and veterinary medicine, that kind of got me started at the turn of the century, so to speak. And so since then, there's been a lot of change and transition, and learned a lot, and you never stop learning when you do this work.
We're going to speak about this, just digging more deep into you and the reserve in general. Tell the viewers a little bit about the reserve, how it started in general.
Right. So we start from very humble beginnings. Back in 1996 with a guy in a garage with two cougars and a tiger that wanted to do education presentations. That guy was not me. I don't come into the picture much later, but very quickly became a 501c3, engaged in the story of the time. And at that time, in the late 90s, there were a lot of big cats that were in and around the country as pets. People who would be able to obtain them and find out that it's not such a great idea to have these guys wandering around your house. And so the story of the time was transfer, what became known as rescue. Now, if you fast forward to today, over 20 years later, getting close to 30 years later, the story is very different. A lot of those pet owners have washed out. The laws and rules surrounding this have changed in the country. And so now we've got entities and institutions that are 20 some odd years older that are finding that all the economic shocks of the world and the rules and regulation may not be enough that they can keep up. So as those businesses fail, as law enforcement has to step in, as private owners decide that they don't want to go through the struggle and toughness of what it takes to take care of them, they have to find new homes. And that has become a big portion of our work, is rehoming animals from zoos and other places that need the help.
So you have panthers there, lions, tigers. Are those the only cats? Or tell the listeners a little bit more about what you got over there.
Right. So we primarily specialize in big cats. So you're talking about lions, you're talking about tigers. We have leopards. We also have cougars here. And we also have a little cat called a serval, which is kind of representative of the many, many little cats that still roam the planet that don't get quite as much attention.
You know, speaking about this, because we did get this question by a lot of people, so I want to ask you this. A couple people from Central Florida asked if you could bring up the tours and other events that people can participate while at the reserve.
Sure. So we are primarily focused on animal care, but as an effort to really educate the public, we offer guided tours that take place throughout the weekends. And so if you go to our website, it's cflar.org. Then you can find a tour and an adventure that is going to fit you. These tours, as I said, are guided, and it gives you the opportunity to really enter into the world of big cats in a way that many people don't oftentimes get the chance to do. And that is part of the joy of being able to be around them, but also to talk about the very, very important conservation challenges that they face.
You know, Dr. Simba, a lot of these cats that you've taken care of, past and present, you know, they've been through the ringer. Some have been in good circumstances, some haven't. But with that said, how do you develop that good relationship with these cats to make sure that they trust you, that they enjoy their environment, which they're going to be living in for the rest of their life over there in Central Florida and Osceola County?
That's a great question. And animal care is really at the heart of what we do. And it's all about forming the relationships that will enable them to allow us to enter into their world. I think it's important to recognize that it's not an exercise in trying to get big cats to act human. And it's also not an exercise in domestication. These guys are wild creatures. But we as humans have to be smart enough to figure out ways to communicate with them using the tools that they are willing to give to us. And so it all starts with us having a very, very dedicated team of animal care staff and volunteers that are willing to take the time to learn the nuances of all of these species. Because even though they may seem like domestic cats sometimes, they really are not. And then it's just a matter of trust, establishing that proximity, establishing that uniqueness whereby they will allow you to be next to them, to get them used to the idea that we're here to help them. And when they do that, it actually goes very far in terms of collaborating on their overall care.
I'll tell you what, you got two tigers next to you that apparently trust you very much so, because they're very close to you as far as that goes. I want to talk about the environments though, Doc, because you know, we talk about the stimulations and really trying to mimic that animal's real life environment that it's had in the past. How do you guys do that to the best of your ability?
Well, it's an interesting way that you ask the question, because there are some instances where we don't want them to be in the environment they were in their past, because they may be coming out of a situation whereby their care may not have been the most appropriate in the world. However, we do often try to bridge the gap as far as we can with the resources that we have. And while there is no substitute for being able to have a cat live a wild life, there are certain freedoms that they have here that they don't have out in the wild. They never have to worry about whether or not they're going to get a meal. They've got people who are looking at their health care on a regular basis. We are always filling their enclosures with enrichments and toys and opportunities for them to practice their skills and develop. And we watch them and we listen for whether or not there are things that they may need that we can provide. So it really does become a bit of a give and take. We have to recognize that that once they are in an ex situ, what they call a captive circumstance, an ex situ circumstance, that their needs change slightly, and so we have to adapt with it.
Now, I know you have a pretty significant veterinary care facility over there at the reserve. With that said, what health issues would you be looking for when these guys come into your care? Obviously, everybody's different. That's kind of a generalized question because they've all come from different places and different types of environments, some good, some bad. But what are you looking for as health issues with these cats?
Well, I bring the same approach to working with these guys as I will try to bring to working with humans. It's you try to look holistically, and you start with those things that may be more significant than others, and then you work your way down from there. So, some of the first things that we try to establish is gut health. You have to make sure that they are eating properly, that things are coming out of the other end appropriately. You have to make sure that they are not having worms, for example, or things that could potentially impact their ability to digest food. Nutrition is one of the biggest components too, because food is medicine, and when it comes to these guys, it's absolutely medicine because that is going to be the primary preventative for most situations. Now, because we do have cats that are under this kind of medical care, they tend to live longer than most of their wild counterparts. It is remarkable when we hear stories out in the wild of an animal that's lived beyond 12 or 13 years. But for us, our average age can get upwards of 18, 19, and in some cases, our oldest resident is 23 right now.
Wow. That's really impressive. You guys are doing amazing work over there. Again, for people listening, Dr. Simba Wiltz, he's the CEO of Central Florida Animal Reserve. It's CFLAR.org. Definitely check it out there. As we keep moving on into the interview with some audience questions built in here, Doctor, let's talk about this. I don't know if you have any of these animals as your residents with the Florida panther. I did listen to a previous podcast you were on, you speaking about the panther saying, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, that they're seeing a lot of mercury in their bodies now. Do you have any panthers there? And why are we losing, as Floridians, losing so many panthers right now?
So we do not have any verified Florida panthers as an endangered species, as well as one that can still survive in the natural environment. It doesn't really behoove us to try to take them out of that environment unless there is a very special circumstance that requires some kind of human intervention. Be that as it may, the Florida panther is one of the more interesting conservation challenges that we face because over the course of time, there have been a number of different shocks to the Florida panther ecosystem and also their populations in general. You'd mentioned about the discovery of the mercury in the bodies of panthers. Well, that was some decades ago. And while I have not seen specifically a study that has removed that from a potential issue, we do know that development and water management, particularly down in the Everglades and closer to Naples, is something that definitely impacts the Florida panthers and their ability to continue to survive. But the biggest threat to them right now is actually vehicular accidents. That tends to be the biggest cause of what's called depredation, where you have these panthers that end up being killed.
Speaking about with the next audience question, speaking about this, obviously as Floridians, we know a lot about this. Some people listening may not. A lot of thunderstorms in the summer, a lot of hurricanes. Where do these animals go during the hurricane season and even just during regular thunderstorms? Are they okay staying in their environment, or do you bring them to a different spot?
Well, what we did, recognizing that hurricanes are quite challenging, is that we built this place with storms and Florida in mind. Having been in existence for as long as we have had the I'm going to call it privilege of some very significant live experiences with that, including the hurricanes of 2004, where all of a sudden we had 4 hurricanes in one season. But that was not at the facility that we have built here. What we've built here is we've built a facility that is designed to withstand those kinds of storms. And so we are under these giant pole barn structures that allow us to have fantastic wind tolerance for the actual enclosures. And then we fortify. So we'll fortify the enclosures and fortify the animals' dens. So that way they have a place to go and hide during the course of the storm. Some cats love water. So there are a couple of cats that occasionally we'll see lounging out in the middle of the storm because they like getting wet. But after the storm is done, then we can validate that everything is secure and everything is back in position. And they are usually very eager for that first meal post-storm.
Yeah, because I know we had a big hurricane last year in my neck of the woods on that Four Corner area, Polk County, Orange County, Osceola. We didn't get hit too hard, but I know some areas of Osceola got hit pretty hard. Did you guys make it out fairly well on that last hurricane we had? That was pretty bad.
We were all extremely lucky. And in spite of the fact that hurricanes can be predictable, what can't be predicted oftentimes are the tornadoes. And there's very little that can survive the strength of a tornado that's coming through. But again, we were fortunate that we did not have those tornadoes. And when we were making this facility, we actually built it up. We actually raised the elevation of what was already dry land by about 2 feet. So that way, even though the world was flooding around us, the animals were secure and safe.
Right. I want to end with this last two questions, and this is more kind of about the organization. Any upcoming events that you guys have at the rescue that you might want to tell the listeners and the viewers about?
Absolutely. So we're getting ready to enter into our big summer fundraising series. This is a really important thing because it helps us with the overall viability of the organization. And so one of the first events that's going to be coming up really soon is our appearance at the St. Cloud Marketplace. And so you can come and see us in person. It's coming up this week, as a matter of fact, on May 24th. You can come and see us, learn more about us from our volunteers. We also have the return of Big Cat Yoga. We do a yoga event out here where people can come and do yoga in the presence of these amazing creatures and listen to their sounds. And it really does add to the zen, to say the least, when you can see a big cat doing that. That's coming up this July 15th as the first date. We're also planning on having some fun cocktail events whereby people will be able to come and enjoy a nice evening and a stroll where we do a chill out where cats and people get a chance to just enjoy the evening and enjoy the peace of the environment. And then something that for all the listeners who may be around the country, around the world, wherever you happen to be listening, we're going to be doing a series of virtual events that will allow people to see some of the enrichment and some of the training that goes into these guys, helping them learn these husbandry behaviors. So very busy summer coming up, and there's always ways to engage us. So I would tell everyone that if you're interested in any of these events, send us an email. The email is real simple. It's events@cflar.org. And that will get you into the ecosystem so that we can keep you appraised of all the different things that are kind of happening real soon.
I want to end with this, speaking to the viewers and the listeners right now. What do you hope they take away from my interview today?
The world of big cats is very complicated. It's very sophisticated. And unfortunately, it's also extremely misunderstood. What I want viewers and listeners to really think about is the fact that this is a complex world and we require complex communications. You're never going to be able to just get the answer from one or two websites. And there's nothing like seeing it in person. So whether you are a local here or you happen to have a big cat home that's in your area, engage them, engage the reality, see for yourself, and learn as much as you possibly can so that we can keep them here amongst us.
So I know we spoke a little bit about, throughout the interview of, these events coming up. People can help you in that way. Again, CFLAR.org. Definitely check it out. But, Simba, how can people, if they want to help out at the reserve, can they go over there and volunteer? I know you spoke about that a little bit earlier on in the interview. What else can they do besides, obviously donate, volunteer, anything else you can think of?
Hey, it takes a whole society to do this because we can't just go down to PetSmart and buy our tiger supplies. So if you've got any skill, any talent, whether it be as discrete as accounting and finance, as physical as construction, or whether you just like to pull people together for a good time, there is a role for everyone in a society that sees animals as having value. And though they can't never go back to the wild, that doesn't mean that we need to mourn that. We need to celebrate the fact that we as people are stepping up to take on the challenge of those animals that can't be in the wild. And that is something that I think is worth celebrating.
So if people want to volunteer, is there an age limit or how do they start that process?
Right. So all of our on-site volunteer components, those components have to be done after age 18. Got to be 18 years or older to do the on-site volunteering. But there are always ways to start your own fundraisers, to do your own activities if you happen to be in school, if you happen to be working on other projects. We even have college students that will come and do their projects about the world of big cats, even if they're not necessarily in zoology. So the sky's the limit. Creativity is the way to go.
And I believe that if people go to, the website, they can find out the social media aspects, Facebook, Instagram, anything. Is that where all that information is? Or
yeah, you'll find some of it on our website, and that you can also go directly to there at volunteer.cflar.org. But you can also hook up with us on social media, send us an email or a message, and we are willing to work with anyone who has a heart for these guys.
Again, for people listening, this was Dr. Simba Wiltz. He is the CEO of Central Florida Animal Reserve. Definitely check out the website at cflar.org. Doctor, thanks so much for your time. I look forward to coming and visit you sometime soon. I'm definitely going to let you know in the next couple of weeks. We're going to come down there, take some pictures, and hopefully bring a few people with us to check out the reserve and what's going on there. So thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to doing this again down the road, just featuring the great work you guys are doing at the Central Florida Animal Reserve.
Thanks for having us, and I look forward to meeting you in person as well.